The appearance of Sumerian civilization around 3500 BC remains one of archaeology's most baffling enigmas. In contrast to other ancient societies that exhibit a slow, step-by-step advancement in technology and social organization, the Sumerians seem to have emerged suddenly onto the historical scene already equipped with a highly developed culture, including an elaborate writing system, refined mathematics, and complex religious structures. This abrupt arrival has fueled long-standing academic controversy and given rise to numerous unconventional explanations concerning the real beginnings of advanced human society. Excavations conducted at major Mesopotamian locations, especially Uruk, Eridu, and Nippur, have brought to light layers of material that seriously question traditional models of cultural evolution. In Uruk, widely regarded as humanity's earliest genuine urban center, researchers discovered enormous temple precincts dating back to approximately 3200 BC. These structures display an architectural mastery that appears far too advanced for a society supposedly in its infancy. The so-called White Temple, perched atop a roughly 40-foot ziggurat, incorporated exact mathematical computations for structural load distribution and included elaborate drainage networks that would not reappear in building practice for thousands of years. The sophistication went well beyond construction techniques. Clay tablets bearing cuneiform script, unearthed from the lowest occupation levels, already contain positional number systems, intricate astronomical computations, and advanced geometric concepts. The Sumerians understood the precession of the equinoxes, a full cycle lasting 25,920 years, which demands many generations of meticulous skywatching to recognize. They determined the solar year to be 365 days, 6 hours, 11 minutes, and 3 seconds, strikingly close to the modern value of 365 days, 5 hours, 48 minutes, and 46 seconds. What renders these findings especially puzzling is the complete lack of preceding developmental phases. Virtually every other civilization leaves clear traces of progression, from rudimentary implements to elaborate machinery, from modest dwellings to grand edifices, from simple drawings to fully articulate scripts. The Sumerian archaeological sequence shows no such intermediate steps. The most ancient tablets already feature detailed legal regulations, precise astronomical records, and elaborate liturgical compositions, as though the entire body of knowledge arrived mature and complete. Among the most mysterious pieces of evidence is the Sumerian King List, preserved on various clay tablets and prisms recovered across Mesopotamia. Compiled around 2100 BC, yet referring to far earlier eras, this document opens with the dramatic statement: "After kingship descended from heaven, kingship was in Eridu. In Eridu, Alulim became king. He ruled for 28,800 years." The list then enumerates a series of monarchs whose reigns stretch across tens of thousands of years, producing a timeline that vastly exceeds ordinary human longevity. It separates history into pre-flood and post-flood epochs, assigning the antediluvian rulers reigns of extraordinary duration. Al-Aljar governed for 36,000 years, Dumuzid the Shepherd for 36,000 years, Enmenlu-Ana for 28,800 years, and so forth. These enormous figures are not isolated mistakes or copyist errors. They recur consistently in different recensions discovered at separate locations and composed in different centuries. The recurring motif that kingship descended from heaven appears throughout the earliest Sumerian writings, implying that both political power and cultural knowledge originated from celestial rather than terrestrial sources. This idea is so deeply embedded in Sumerian thought that it surfaces in everyday administrative records, sacred hymns, and judicial formulations alike. The uniformity of the theme across such varied genres suggests it represented a core conviction about the ultimate origin of civilization itself, rather than a purely poetic convention. Early Sumerian technological accomplishments further undermine the notion of steady, incremental progress. Metallurgical studies of objects recovered from the deepest strata show advanced alloying methods that produced bronze with carefully controlled copper to tin proportions tailored to particular purposes. Weapons employed different alloy mixtures than agricultural implements, revealing a nuanced grasp of material properties. Remarkably, Sumerian smiths manufactured steel objects roughly 2 millennia before steelmaking is thought to have emerged in other parts of the world. Their astronomical expertise proves equally astonishing. Cuneiform tablets portray the solar system with surprising fidelity, mentioning celestial bodies invisible to unaided eyesight. The Mul-Apin Compendium, though copied around 1000 BC, preserves much older star lore and enumerates 18 celestial pathways traversed by heavenly bodies, while describing planetary motions with mathematical exactness. These documents mention a body called Nibiru, characterized as a planet traveling an extremely elongated path that returns it to the inner solar system once every 3,600 years. Among their mathematical innovations stands the sexagesimal, base 60 system, still employed today for measuring time and angles, which permits highly accurate handling of fractions and large astronomical quantities. The famous Plimpton 322 tablet displays awareness of Pythagorean triples more than 1,000 years before Pythagoras, pointing to abstract mathematical reasoning of considerable depth. The Eridu Genesis, among the oldest known creation narratives, offers valuable perspective on Sumerian ideas about the beginnings of organized society. Unlike many later cosmogonies centered on universal events, this account focuses explicitly on the divine founding of human culture. It relates that the gods surveyed the land and established Eridu as the first city, presenting it as a divine bestowal. The story recounts how celestial entities instructed mortals in essential arts, farming, livestock management, building crafts, portraying civilization as an intentional endowment rather than a product of slow human effort. Divine figures known as the Anunnaki are credited with founding the initial urban centers, imparting agricultural methods, and supplying the intellectual foundations required for complex communities. The narrative explains that these beings descended from the heavens, took up residence among people, and created temples that functioned as hubs of instruction and authority. Material remains lend partial support to these ancient traditions. Continuous occupation at Eridu spans more than 4,000 years. The lowest levels already contain finely crafted ceramics, elaborate irrigation works, and intricate building remains. Rather than showing steady refinement, the architectural sequence indicates an early peak of technical proficiency, followed by periods of deterioration and subsequent reconstruction. The temple compounds at these primordial sites exhibit engineering principles that seem mismatched with the presumed technological context of the era. Deep foundations beneath the Eridu temple display careful design that compensates for soil compression and periodic inundation. Construction utilized proportional systems later echoed in classical architecture, hinting at knowledge that would lie dormant for thousands of years. Early irrigation infrastructure across Sumerian lands reveals comparable sophistication. Vast networks of canals, embankments, and storage basins demanded accurate land measurement and a solid grasp of hydraulics. These installations successfully watered enormous territories, sustaining population concentrations not matched again in the region until recent centuries. The geometric and arithmetic computations needed for such undertakings reflect deep engineering insight. Sumerian religious literature depicts a highly structured pantheon in which the Anunnaki formed the principal divine assembly. Most sources numbering 50 members, among whom 7 hold supreme authority and determine destinies. These entities are portrayed as humanoid in form, yet endowed with capacities and wisdom far surpassing mortal limits. Sacred writings describe the Anunnaki arriving from a remote domain and instituting civilization according to a broader cosmic design. The Atrahasis epic narrates how these beings engineered humans to serve as laborers, endowing them with sufficient understanding to practice farming, building, and administration. It evokes a primordial era when gods and mortals coexisted closely, with divine figures acting as direct sovereigns and instructors. The remarkable uniformity of these descriptions across independent sources implies they convey more than fictional storytelling. Everyday administrative documents from different Sumerian cities refer to the Anunnaki in straightforward, practical language, recording offerings presented to individual members and outlining their administrative functions. Legal instruments appeal to their authority, while astronomical records associate them with specific heavenly bodies. Ongoing decipherment of tens of thousands of cuneiform tablets continues to uncover fresh information about Sumerian convictions concerning divine participation in human life. Newer finds include records of advanced medical treatments, meticulous celestial observations, and intricate mathematical procedures that call into question long-held assumptions about the limits of ancient skill. Across these documents, the attribution of such expertise to divine teaching, rather than independent human invention, remains consistent. The pronounced technological disparity between early Sumerian society and neighboring groups supplies further indication of anomalous origins. While adjacent peoples largely maintained simple agrarian lifestyles with basic implements and minimal social hierarchy, the Sumerians rapidly created dense urban environments, specialized professions, far-reaching commerce, and elaborate bureaucratic mechanisms. This sharp contrast points toward external impetus rather than purely internal cultural maturation. Genetic examination of skeletal material from early Sumerian contexts has uncovered intriguing irregularities that resonate with these historical riddles. DNA studies indicate genetic signatures that do not neatly align with neighboring populations, suggesting either substantial influx from unidentified regions or biological factors beyond current explanatory models. These genetic patterns correspond closely with textual traditions that speak of ancestors arriving from faraway places or possessing celestial lineage. Linguistic investigation of Akkadian and Sumerian cuneiform sources reveals that the term Anunnaki derives from the compound Anunnaki, literally offspring of An, or, more broadly rendered, those who from heaven to earth came. This etymology is pivotal because it anchors the core notion that these entities originated in a celestial sphere before descending to engage directly with earthly matters. The Akkadian adaptation of the Sumerian term illustrates how the concept persisted and evolved across successive Mesopotamian cultures, while retaining its essential meaning of sky-descended divine actors deeply involved in terrestrial affairs. In the earliest Sumerian documents from circa 2600 BC, the cuneiform signs for Anunnaki appear regularly in administrative contexts from Nippur and elsewhere, indicating they were regarded not as imaginary figures, but as recognized participants within real governance frameworks. During the Old Babylonian era, the term acquired additional layers of meaning, as scribes applied determinatives that explicitly marked the Anunnaki as divine rather than mortal or conceptual entities. Second millennium Akkadian renderings frequently pair Anunnaki references with the phrase Ilani Shameu Ersati, gods of heaven and earth, reinforcing their dual capacity to function in both celestial and terrestrial domains. The remarkable consistency of this dual nature portrayal across thousands of tablets from diverse cities and eras points to a widely shared conception of the Anunnaki that transcended regional differences in cult practice. The Enuma Elish creation epic, preserved primarily on 7 tablets recovered from Ashurbanipal's library at Nineveh, supplies the fullest surviving narrative of the Anunnaki's role in ordering both cosmos and society. The poem opens with the primeval waters of Apsu and Tiamat, from which the earliest divine generations arise. It recounts how Anu, god of the sky, rises to preeminence among the younger deities, instituting the hierarchical framework that would regulate divine and human spheres alike. Anu's function in the Enuma Elish extends beyond mere sovereignty. He is depicted as the possessor of the Tablets of Destinies, granting him ultimate control over fate. Tablet 4 specifically states that Anu assigned fixed stations to the heavenly bodies, thereby establishing the astronomical framework governing earthly seasons and farming cycles. This linkage between divine rule and cosmic regularity recurs throughout Mesopotamian literature, implying that the Anunnaki were perceived as custodians of universal order maintained through precise celestial mechanics. Enlil, Anu's son and successor, receives authority over the atmosphere and the Earth's surface. The epic presents Enlil as the executive agent of divine will, the god who carries out the decisions of the heavenly council. Tablet 5 credits Enlil with organizing the year, appointing the months, and instituting the seasonal agricultural calendar that became foundational to Mesopotamian life. The text attributes to Enlil the creation of planting and harvesting schedules. knowledge that presupposes detailed understanding of astronomical periodicity. Enlil's dominion is portrayed as encompassing all earthly concerns, including the founding of human settlements and the dissemination of civilized arts. Administrative archives from Nippur, Enlil's chief cult center, preserve meticulous records of offerings and ceremonies, suggesting the temple functioned as far more than a devotional site. Excavations indicate that the precinct included workshops for metalworking, weaving, and star observation, corroborating textual indications that divine entities actively instructed human populations in practical disciplines. Ea, called Enki in Sumerian tradition, constitutes the third member of the Supreme Triad. The Enuma Elish depicts him as the wisest among the gods, master of crafts, incantations, and the mysteries of creation. Tablet 6 narrates how Ea fashions humankind from clay, mingled with the blood of a slain deity, thereby infusing mortals with a divine spark while preserving their finite nature. This origin story departs markedly from many other ancient cosmogonies by stressing the purposeful transmission of divine expertise to humanity. Ea's realm includes the subterranean waters and the concealed wisdom beneath the earth. Sumerian hymns celebrate him as guardian of the Mi, the fundamental decrees governing civilization, among them kingship, priesthood, craftsmanship, and conflict. The bestowal of these divine principles upon different cities constitutes a recurrent motif in Mesopotamian literature. Each major urban center receives particular facets of civilized knowledge drawn from Ea's comprehensive storehouse. The Epic of Gilgamesh, preserved in various recensions spanning nearly 2,000 years, offers vital insight into the character of divine-human relations and the Anunnaki's continued engagement with earthly events. The canonical version, redacted in the Neo-Assyrian period, yet incorporating much older material, presents divine figures as active participants in human affairs rather than remote originators who withdraw after creation. The epic's portrayal reveals complex personalities and motivations that set these beings apart from abstract theological constructs. Shamash, the sun god, and member of the divine assembly, acts as Gilgamesh's celestial advocate, offering counsel and safeguarding the hero throughout his quests. The narrative describes Shamash as possessing foreknowledge of events and the power to influence natural forces, either to aid or obstruct human undertakings. Ishtar's conduct in the epic illustrates the Anunnaki's capacity for both generosity and devastating fury. Her proposal to Gilgamesh and subsequent wrath at his refusal unleash the Bull of Heaven, a calamitous episode that demands divine intervention to contain. This incident underscores the Anunnaki's command over natural catastrophes and their readiness to deploy such power in response to perceived slights, implying emotional traits akin to human ones despite their superior abilities. The flood episode embedded within the Gilgamesh epic displays striking similarities to later Deluge traditions while furnishing distinctive information about Anunnaki decision-making. Utnapishtim recounts how Enlil resolves to eradicate humanity through a massive inundation, yet Ea covertly instructs Utnapishtim to construct a vessel and safeguard life. This discord within the Divine Council exposes disagreement concerning humanity's destiny and suggests that individual members could act contrary to majority will. The flood narrative supplies precise technical specifications regarding the ark's construction, including the use of bitumen for sealing, exact dimensional measurements, and structural techniques designed to withstand catastrophic conditions. The text explicitly attributes this engineering expertise to Ea's direct guidance, reinforcing the persistent theme of celestial beings, imparting specialized technical knowledge to chosen mortals. Administrative and cultic records from principal Mesopotamian centers supply comprehensive inventories of the Anunnaki pantheon and their designated terrestrial jurisdictions. The temple hymns, ascribed to the high priestess in Hedwana, around 2300 BC, enumerate sanctuaries across Mesopotamia and specify which Anunnaki figure presides over each. These compositions disclose a methodical distribution of divine authority, paralleling the political organization of Sumerian city-states. Archives from Nippur, Mesopotamia's traditional religious hub, preserve detailed catalogs of the Anunnaki hierarchy, identifying 50 principal deities with 7 forming an inner council. Each receives distinct titles and spheres of influence. Anu oversees cosmic harmony, Enlil governs atmospheric forces and terrestrial rule. Eo controls subterranean waters and insight. Ninhursag supervises fertility and birth. Nana regulates lunar cycles. Utu administers solar functions and equity, and Inanna manages warfare and sexuality. Babylonian temple ledgers document extensive rituals and offerings directed to particular Anunnaki members, implying that these beings were perceived as having ongoing material requirements rather than existing solely as immaterial essences. The meticulous enumeration of foodstuffs, garments, and ceremonial equipment suggests the Anunnaki were regarded as possessing corporeal needs comparable to those of human sovereigns. The canonical Babylonian temple list catalogues more than 600 sanctuaries throughout Mesopotamia, each linked to specific Anunnaki figures and their assigned roles. This orderly geographical allocation reveals deliberate planning rather than haphazard religious evolution. Administrative archives from Ur contain thousands of tablets detailing the logistical dimensions of divine service, including inventories of temple workshops, rosters of specialized artisans, and accounts of resource distribution for sacred enterprises. The documents portray temple precincts as hubs of technological progress, where divine overseers guided the refinement of techniques in metallurgy, astronomy, and construction. The Draham Archive near Nippur records an enormous livestock operation that provisioned sacrificial animals for religious observances across Mesopotamia. The scale and organization of this enterprise, handling thousands of cattle, sheep, and goats, illustrate the vast material commitment devoted to sustaining divine favor. The records imply that the Anunnaki required considerable physical support to maintain their terrestrial activities. Neo-Babylonian astronomical compositions disclose highly developed mathematical expertise ascribed to divine instruction. The Mul Upin corpus describes planetary motions with impressive accuracy, including computations of retrograde movement and orbital durations that presuppose centuries of disciplined observation. These texts consistently attribute such astronomical mastery to celestial revelation rather than purely human effort, upholding the tradition of Anunnaki involvement in advanced scholarship. Ceremonial texts from different eras outline rituals intended to sustain interaction between human and divine spheres. The annual Akidu festival in Babylon featured elaborate rites symbolizing the periodic renewal of the cosmic order instituted by the Anunnaki. The detailed protocol suggests these observances were regarded as essential for preserving stability in both natural and societal domains. The geographical spread of Anunnaki veneration extends significantly beyond Mesopotamia itself. Documents from Anatolia, Syria, and Iran mention Mesopotamian divine names and motifs, indicating that religious and administrative frameworks rooted in Anunnaki concepts diffused widely across the ancient Near East. This extensive acceptance points to the functional efficacy of Mesopotamian systems rather than simple cultural diffusion. The shift from overt divine presence to divine absence constitutes one of the most dramatic transitions recorded in ancient Mesopotamian literature. Unlike the gradual erosion of religious authority observed in other societies, Sumerian and Babylonian writings portray a purposeful, organized retreat of the Anunnaki from direct involvement in human life. This withdrawal is presented not as mythic symbolism, but as documented historical occurrence, preserved by scribes who either witnessed or inherited reliable reports of real events. The most thorough account of this divine departure appears in the Lament for Sumer and Ur, a 436-line composition dating to around 2000 BC during the disintegration of the Third Dynasty of Ur. The poem frames itself as a contemporary witness to catastrophic collapse rather than legendary tale. Its opening lines set the magnitude of the calamity. The good day has been carried off. The city weeps bitter tears. The day of well-being has been carried off in the storm. The text describes a methodical abandonment of principal Sumerian cities by their patron deities. Enlil, chief administrator of earthly matters, is depicted leaving Nippur with precise details concerning the removal of sacred objects and the suspension of temple functions. The poem states that Enlil has forsaken his abode, and the divine decrees have been changed. It furnishes vivid descriptions of deserted sanctuaries, silent divination chambers, and discarded ritual implements, suggesting direct observation rather than literary invention. The abandonment of Ur receives especially poignant treatment. Nana, the moon god and city patron, departs despite fervent entreaties from his mortal attendants. The composition records dialogues among divine beings, exposing internal deliberations regarding the decision to withdraw. Nana's exit is portrayed as reluctant, yet unavoidable, hinting at external constraints or predetermined cosmic rhythms compelling the departure. The poem details the tangible signs of divine withdrawal with striking specificity. Temple fires extinguished, sacred processional barges emptied of their divine occupants, and elaborate communication ceremonies halted abruptly. It mentions that the divine boat of Anu has sunk, and Enlil's sacred barge swept away by floodwaters. Such references to specialized transport imply the Anunnaki possessed physical means of travel removed along with their presence. Archaeological findings at Ur largely corroborate the Lament's account. Excavations expose a clear abandonment horizon around 2000 BC, where cultic activity ceased suddenly. Ritual paraphernalia remained in situ, as though users vanished abruptly, and building projects were left unfinished. The royal cemetery displays signs of hurried interments and rapid deposition of valuable goods, indicating crisis-driven response rather than slow decline. The Lament associates environmental disasters with divine departure, offering insight into the practical role of Anunnaki presence in ecological stability. It describes tempests enveloping the land, inundations sweeping away established order, and crop failures causing widespread starvation. The apparent link between withdrawal and natural upheaval suggests the Anunnaki fulfilled functional purposes in sustaining environmental equilibrium beyond ceremonial ones. Babylonian compositions from the following era expand upon themes introduced in the Sumerian Lament. The Era epic, composed during the early 1st millennium BC, portrays divine wrath and intentional devastation of human society as retribution for unspecified offenses. It depicts Era, deity of plague and conflict, persuading Marduk to leave Babylon temporarily, unleashing chaos across the region. The Era epic furnishes detailed descriptions of the deliberative process leading to withdrawal. It recounts council sessions among the Anunnaki, in which members debate humanity's merit and the difficulties of sustained direct engagement. Marduk's hesitation to abandon his terrestrial duties contrasts with Era's eagerness for destruction, exposing tensions within the divine hierarchy concerning proper relations with humankind. The epic's depiction of divine displeasure differs markedly from capricious anger found in other ancient literatures. The Anunnaki's choice to depart appears grounded in concrete breaches of agreement or cosmic law rather than arbitrary mood swings. The text alludes to violated pacts and neglected duties, implying formal covenants between divine beings and human authorities had been broken, necessitating cessation of direct oversight. Babylonian astronomical records supply supplementary evidence for the systematic character of withdrawal. The Venus tablet of Amisaduqa logs precise planetary observations during the era when divine presence supposedly diminished. The mathematical rigor required for these records indicates continued possession of advanced astronomical expertise, even as immediate divine contact lessened. This suggests the Anunnaki transmitted certain forms of knowledge capable of independent preservation and transmission. The tablet's references to Ishtar's departure coincide with specific Venus phenomena, particularly intervals of invisibility during superior conjunction. It portrays these disappearances as predictable, cyclical withdrawals, implying divine departures may have followed astronomical rhythms rather than random choice. The association between celestial events and divine presence suggests Anunnaki activities were synchronized with broader cosmic patterns extending beyond terrestrial concerns. Calendrical systems across Mesopotamia underwent substantial revision during the withdrawal period. The traditional 360-day year required modification to align with the actual solar year of approximately 365.25 days, indicating loss of direct divine supervision over temporal precision. Administrative documents from Babylon detail intercalation procedures and intricate adjustment mechanisms implemented when divine calendrical oversight ended. The mathematical complexity of these corrections reveals enduring astronomical competence despite reduced divine guidance. Scribal centers in Babylon and Borsippa preserved meticulous records of planetary motions, eclipse recurrences, and seasonal shifts, enabling reliable timekeeping absent direct celestial instruction. These archives indicate the Anunnaki had instituted comprehensive educational frameworks capable of autonomous operation during periods of lessened divine presence. Neo-Babylonian texts describe concerted efforts to restore divine presence through elaborate ceremonial practices and monumental construction. Nebuchadnezzar II's rebuilding of Babylon incorporated deliberate architectural adaptations intended to suit returning divine inhabitants. The Ishtar Gate and Processional Way were erected according to precise mathematical specifications, purportedly corresponding to divine preferences for terrestrial dwellings. Detailed design plans for these projects reveal mastery of acoustic engineering, celestial orientation, and sacred proportion, suggesting persistent access to divine technical directives. Builders employed intricate mathematical ratios and astronomical alignments, requiring advanced knowledge of engineering and astronomy. These undertakings represent enormous commitments of resources and labor, predicated on the belief that correct construction could facilitate divine re-entry. Patterns of temple abandonment across Mesopotamia follow clear geographical and temporal sequences suggestive of coordinated withdrawal rather than haphazard decline. Archaeological reconnaissance shows northern sanctuaries deserted first, followed by central sites, while southern temples remained active longest. This progression aligns with descriptions in various laments and chronicles that portray the Anunnaki departing in a north to south movement over several decades. The organized character of abandonment is especially clear at sites such as Assur and Mari, where excavations reveal deliberate extraction of sacred objects and careful sealing of ritual spaces. Unlike destruction from warfare or natural disaster, these locations exhibit signs of orderly evacuation, valuable items removed, and significant texts safeguarded for eventual retrieval. The evident forethought implies planned departures rather than emergency flight. Religious compositions from the Neo-Assyrian period describe increasingly elaborate attempts to reverse divine withdrawal through complex ceremonies and lavish offerings. Ritual texts detail month-long observances intended to persuade absent deities to resume terrestrial residence. These rites demanded vast quantities of precious substances, hundreds of participants, and intricate choreographed sequences that consumed enormous resources without achieving success. Administrative records document declining temple income and diminishing festival attendance, confirming the failure of restoration efforts. Royal inscriptions from the later Assyrian era acknowledge the ineffectiveness of conventional rituals in restoring divine presence, leading to shifts toward greater emphasis on human initiative rather than celestial intervention. The spatial pattern of withdrawal corresponds with particular astronomical observations preserved in Mesopotamian archives. Sanctuaries linked to specific Anunnaki members were abandoned when their associated celestial bodies reached defined positions or completed designated cycles. Nana's temple at Ur was deserted during an anomalous lunar period, while solar shrines across Mesopotamia ceased functioning during documented episodes of solar eclipse activity. These correspondences imply divine departures were coordinated with predictable celestial events. The mathematical accuracy needed to compute these alignments demonstrates sophisticated astronomical competence that persisted beyond the withdrawal phase. Scribal institutions maintained detailed ephemerides, projecting planetary positions decades ahead, allowing anticipation of celestial occurrences linked to divine activity. Late Babylonian texts record the creation of substitute mechanisms intended to sustain social stability during divine absence. Professional divination gained prominence as direct celestial communication diminished, with elaborate protocols developed for interpreting omens and portents. The Barutu series, comprising over 100 tablets, codifies divination methods that replaced immediate divine consultation. Administrative documents reveal expansion of human bureaucratic structures, assuming duties previously handled by divine entities. Legal codes grew more detailed and intricate as mortal judges supplanted celestial arbitration. Agricultural oversight required novel techniques for forecasting weather and seasonal patterns absent direct divine direction. These adaptations showcase considerable human resourcefulness in preserving civilization despite diminished celestial supervision. Economic consequences of withdrawal appear in accounting records, documenting reduced agricultural output and diminished commercial activity. Temple workshops, previously centers of technological advancement, shut down, resulting in loss of specialized expertise in metallurgy, textiles, and other crafts. Texts describe initiatives to safeguard technical information through written manuals and apprenticeship programs, substituting for direct divine teaching. Archaeological evidence confirms textual reports of economic contraction during withdrawal. Excavations reveal decreased building activity, simplified production methods, and reduced long-distance exchange. Craftsmanship quality declined noticeably in ceramics, metalwork, and textiles as divine technical guidance became unavailable. Persian period documents trace the gradual shift of Mesopotamian religion from tangible divine presence towards symbolic representation. The Cyrus cylinder recognizes the absence of traditional deities while asserting divine endorsement of Persian governance through abstract notions of cosmic equity. This evolution marks a profound transition from the concrete divine interaction depicted in earlier texts to the more abstract theological frameworks that characterized subsequent religious traditions. The textual documentation of divine withdrawal in Mesopotamia offers unparalleled perspective on the practical ramifications of losing direct contact with advanced entities that formerly directed human society. The detailed narratives suggest these departures constituted historical occurrences rather than mythic constructs, with specific dates, places, and circumstances preserved across multiple independent sources. The uniformity of these reports across different cities and eras indicates collective experience of genuine divine retreat rather than parallel mythological invention. The organized withdrawal of the Anunnaki from immediate human affairs did not terminate their impact on Mesopotamian culture. Instead, it inaugurated a complex phase during which celestial communication transformed from physical presence into prophetic admonitions embedded within literary and religious compositions. These warnings, meticulously conserved in temple archives and royal libraries throughout the ancient Near East, contain precise descriptions of future divine interventions and the conditions signaling the return of primordial powers. The Marduk prophecy, recovered among Ashurbanipal's Nineveh tablets, stands as one of the most significant apocalyptic compositions from ancient Mesopotamia. Dated roughly to the 12th century BC, yet incorporating considerably older material, the text outlines a recurring cycle of divine departure and reappearance that governs Babylon's, and by extension, humanity's destiny. It opens with Marduk announcing his departure from the city because of human wrongdoing, but crucially specifies prerequisites for his eventual return. The prophecy delineates 3 distinct phases of divine absence, each spanning centuries and marked by characteristic political and environmental circumstances. The initial phase aligns with Assyrian hegemony over Babylon, described as a time when the north wind shall blow harsh upon the land. The text provides detailed accounts of political turmoil accompanying this period, including destruction of temple complexes and suspension of traditional religious observances. More importantly, the Marduk prophecy identifies astronomical indicators for each stage of absence and return. It refers to specific celestial configurations required before Marduk can resume terrestrial residence, including completion of planetary cycles, particular stellar alignments, and defined eclipse patterns. The mathematical exactness needed to compute these events demonstrates profound understanding of celestial mechanics far exceeding typical ancient observational capacity. The prophecy's depiction of the final return phase includes alarming descriptions of worldwide catastrophes preceding divine re-establishment. It speaks of mountains shifting from their places and waters rising beyond their appointed limits. These geological and hydrological upheavals are framed not as punitive measures, but as essential cosmic recalibrations necessary before proper divine-human relations can resume. Excavations at Babylon corroborate several predictions contained in the Marduk prophecy. Multiple destruction and rebuilding phases correspond to the cyclical pattern outlined in the text. The Neo-Babylonian reconstruction under Nebuchadnezzar II incorporated architectural modifications seemingly designed to accommodate prophesied return, including expanded temple precincts and altered ceremonial areas exceeding contemporary liturgical needs. The dynastic prophecy, preserved on tablets from Babylon and Sippar, supplies complementary information regarding divine involvement in political succession. Unlike the Marduk prophecy's emphasis on religious restoration, this composition focuses on emergence of new governing orders under renewed celestial guidance. It describes a sequence of future rulers arising under direct divine direction, each possessing wisdom and abilities surpassing ordinary human limits. The text furnishes detailed portraits of these rulers' attributes and achievements, describing them as wiser than the most learned scribes and stronger than the greatest warriors. The prophecy asserts that these leaders will exhibit technological capacities astonishing their contemporaries, including construction of edifices reaching toward the sky, and creation of devices harnessing storm energy. The dynastic prophecy establishes specific genealogical criteria for these future sovereigns, tracing lineages back to early divine-human interactions described in Sumerian tradition. It suggests certain bloodlines retain latent characteristics, enabling direct celestial communication, and that these lineages will activate during periods of renewed divine presence. Administrative records from various Mesopotamian cities preserve genealogical documentation, apparently intended to monitor these particular lineages across generations. The prophecy's portrayal of technological renewal includes references to knowledge concealed in subterranean chambers beneath temple foundations. Archaeological exploration at major Mesopotamian sites has uncovered extensive underground complexes potentially corresponding to these prophetic descriptions. Excavations beneath Babylon's Esagila temple revealed sealed chambers containing tablets with advanced mathematical and astronomical computations exceeding known scribal capabilities of the period. The Enuma Anu Enlil series, comprising over 70 tablets of astrological omens and celestial observations, contains numerous allusions to cosmic portents signaling major divine interventions. These texts describe specific astronomical configurations serving as harbingers of impending celestial activity, including planetary alignments, comet apparitions, and anomalous stellar events. The mathematical precision of these forecasts implies access to astronomical knowledge requiring centuries of systematic observation. Tablet 63 details a particular configuration involving Jupiter, Mars, and Saturn, recurring approximately every 516 years. The text associates this alignment with occasions of momentous divine decisions, when celestial beings descend from their distant abode to evaluate human deeds. The computations necessary to predict such alignments demonstrate sophisticated grasp of orbital mechanics unmatched in Europe until the Renaissance. The series includes precise descriptions of comet apparitions correlating with significant historical turning points throughout Mesopotamian history. It records specific orbital traits, brightness fluctuations, and visibility durations, enabling accurate forecasting of these events. The linkage of particular comets with divine activity suggests these phenomena functioned as scheduled indicators of predetermined interventions rather than chance occurrences. Lunar eclipse predictions in the Enuma Anu Enlil series exhibit extraordinary accuracy, with calculations correctly anticipating eclipse visibility, duration, and magnitude centuries ahead. The texts associate different eclipse types with distinct categories of divine action. Total eclipses herald awakening of dormant deities, while partial eclipses signal preparation of celestial councils. The systematic correlation between eclipse features and divine activities implies a complex communication framework based on astronomical phenomena. Solar phenomena receive equally meticulous treatment in the Omen series. The texts catalog various solar eclipse types, auroral displays, and sunspot activity with precision rivaling modern observations. Solar eclipses are linked to periods when divine vision darkens and celestial protection of earthly rulers weakens. Accurate forecasting of these events allowed Mesopotamian leaders to prepare for intervals of reduced celestial favor and adopt alternative administrative strategies. Neo-Assyrian prophetic literature from the 8th and 7th centuries BC contains increasingly urgent alerts concerning return of primordial powers. Prophecies attributed to Nabu Rehtu Usur describe visions of deities returning from remote regions to reclaim earthly domains and re-establish ancient order. These compositions provide specific chronological markers for divine return, referencing astronomical cycles and political developments serving as countdown indicators. The prophecies outline preparatory measures for divine re-entry, including construction of designated architectural complexes and preservation of particular ritual expertise. Neo-Assyrian royal inscriptions document massive building projects apparently intended to house returning celestial beings. The palace complex at Dur-Sharuk-Arn incorporated chambers with unusual proportions and acoustic characteristics suggesting non-human occupants. Mathematical ratios embedded in these structures correspond to specifications found in prophetic texts detailing divine architectural preferences. Assyrian military records refer to armaments and strategies to be deployed during divine return. Descriptions include devices casting fire from the sky and moving without human direction. Technical specifications in these texts suggest advanced military technologies exceeding contemporary capabilities. Archaeological remains from Assyrian military installations include unusual metallurgical residues and construction methods potentially representing attempts to develop prophesied weaponry. Neo-Babylonian prophetic compositions from the 6th century BC describe accelerating omens of approaching divine intervention. The Uruk prophecy details environmental transformations preceding divine return, including shifts in seasonal cycles, anomalous animal behavior, and geological instability. The text supplies specific measurements and timelines for these phenomena, allowing comparison with historical and archaeological data. It describes technological advances emerging during the pre-return interval, including progress in metallurgy, astronomy, and engineering, preparing humanity for renewed celestial contact. Neo-Babylonian administrative records document significant strides in these disciplines during the 6th century BC, including novel alloy formulations, more precise astronomical instruments, and innovative construction methods aligning with prophetic descriptions. Ritual texts from the Neo-Babylonian period outline elaborate ceremonies intended to prepare for divine return. The Akitu festival underwent substantial modification during this era, incorporating new ritual components addressing returning rather than absent deities. These observances included specific invocations, spatial arrangements, and offering protocols purportedly facilitating divine re-entry into earthly affairs. Ritual instructions detail purification procedures for temples and cities required before celestial beings could safely resume terrestrial residence. These procedures encompass removal of designated contaminants, realignment of architectural features, and performance of complex ceremonial sequences restoring cosmic equilibrium. The detailed requirements suggest practical understanding of divine preferences rather than merely symbolic acts. Incantation texts from various Mesopotamian sites preserve formulas designed to avert or moderate divine anger during return periods. These incantations recognize that celestial re-entry will inevitably disrupt existing social and political arrangements. They provide specific verbal formulas, ritual gestures, and protective measures purportedly shielding human populations from destructive aspects of divine intervention. The incantations describe defensive barriers encircling cities and individuals through proper ceremonial procedures. These barriers are characterized as energy fields, deflecting celestial wrath while permitting beneficial divine influences to pass. Technical descriptions of these protective systems include precise geometric configurations, material specifications, and temporal requirements suggesting detailed knowledge of divine operational parameters. Persian period texts trace gradual fulfillment of prophetic warnings as political and environmental conditions align with ancient predictions. The Cyrus Cylinder acknowledges renewed divine favor toward Babylon, while citing specific prophetic compositions forecasting Persian dominion as prelude to complete celestial restoration. The correspondence between prophetic forecasts and historical developments demonstrates practical accuracy of Mesopotamian prophetic literature rather than speculative theology. Late Babylonian astronomical records track completion of celestial cycles described in prophetic writings. These computations indicate that numerous astronomical markers for divine return have been reached, suggesting prophesied interventions may be approaching according to ancient Mesopotamian chronologies. The mathematical rigor of these calculations permits verification of prophetic precision and supplies specific dates for anticipated celestial activities. The consistency of prophetic admonitions across centuries and diverse political contexts implies these texts preserved authentic knowledge concerning patterns of divine intervention rather than arbitrary religious notions. Detailed technical specifications, accurate astronomical forecasts, and verifiable historical alignments indicate Mesopotamian prophetic literature constituted a sophisticated early warning system designed to prepare humanity for eventual Anunnaki return and resumption of direct divine-human interaction. The mathematical underpinnings of Sumerian astronomical observation exhibit sophistication that seriously challenges conventional views of ancient intellectual capacity. The sexagesimal system appears fully developed in the earliest cuneiform records, incorporating mathematical abstractions far exceeding expected capabilities for an emergent civilization. This numerical structure facilitated precise handling of complex fractions, astronomical quantities, and geometric relations, forming the foundation of a cosmic chronometry tracking celestial periods spanning millennia. Mathematical tablets recovered from Nibiru contain computations projecting thousands of years backward and forward. The Plimpton 322 tablet demonstrates familiarity with Pythagorean relationships and trigonometric principles predating Greek mathematics by over a millennium. These operations served practical purposes: monitoring planetary motions, forecasting eclipses, synchronizing calendars with cosmic cycles, rather than abstract speculation. The precision of these calculations implies access to observational data gathered over periods vastly exceeding typical human lifespans. The sexagesimal system's high divisibility, 60 factors evenly into 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, enabled exact fractional work without decimal approximations that hampered other ancient numerical traditions. This framework allowed Mesopotamian astronomers to compute planetary positions, eclipse recurrences, and seasonal transitions with accuracy unmatched until modern computational techniques. Ephemeris tables from Uruk track Jupiter's 12-year orbit with mathematical exactness, incorporating adjustments for eccentricity, retrograde motion, and positional anomalies detectable only through prolonged systematic observation. The uniformity of these records across multiple centers suggests coordinated astronomical enterprises transcending local political divisions, indicating centralized knowledge infrastructures spanning Mesopotamian civilization. The notion of the Great Year, a 25,920-year cycle corresponding to complete precession of Earth's axis, features prominently in Mesopotamian astronomical literature as a primary framework for cosmic chronology. Sumerian computations reflect accurate grasp of this cycle, requiring precise stellar positional measurements over centuries. Yet these texts present precession as established fact rather than novel discovery. Babylonian records subdivide the Great Year into 12 zodiacal ages of 2,160 years each, reflecting precessional movement of the vernal equinox point by roughly 1 degree every 72 years. A value modern astronomy confirms with high accuracy. Sustained tracking of this gradual celestial shift demanded institutional continuity across generations and suggests astronomical programs functioning independently of political instability and social disruption. The Mulapin tablets delineate 3 celestial highways corresponding to domains of Anu, Enlil, and Ea, each encompassing designated constellations and associated divine influences. These pathways segment the sky into precise geometric sectors, enabling accurate monitoring of planetary and stellar positions year-round. Mathematical relationships among these zones demonstrate sophisticated spherical geometry and coordinate systems anticipating later Hellenistic developments. Observations recorded in the Mul-Apin series include meticulous accounts of heliacal risings and settings for numerous stars and constellations. Establishing reliable patterns required exact timing and extended systematic documentation. The precision of these stellar calendars permitted Mesopotamian astronomers to forecast seasonal transitions, agricultural timing, and religious observances with remarkable accuracy, facilitating societal coordination through celestial knowledge. The tablets characterize Nibiru as pursuing a highly elliptical trajectory, returning it to the inner solar system every 3,600 years. Mathematical descriptions of this orbit reflect understanding of elliptical mechanics and gravitational dynamics not formalized in European science until Kepler's 17th century work. The accuracy of these orbital computations suggests either direct observation of the body or possession of advanced predictive models capable of forecasting its movements. Ziggurats throughout Mesopotamia exhibit precise astronomical alignments, transforming these structures into large-scale observational platforms. The Great Ziggurat at Ur incorporates angular measurements aligning with solstices, equinoxes, and significant planetary conjunctions. Archaeological surveys confirm corner orientations accurate to fractions of a degree, necessitating surveying precision exceeding conventional ancient standards. Stepped construction provided multiple observation levels at varying elevations, allowing simultaneous monitoring of diverse celestial phenomena. Mathematical relationships among step heights, platform dimensions, and sight lines demonstrate sophisticated observational geometry, accounting for atmospheric refraction, horizon effects, and seasonal visibility variations, indicating advanced practical astronomy. Excavations at Uruk's Anu ziggurat uncovered subterranean chambers containing astronomical instruments and computational tablets. These spaces feature precisely oriented viewing shafts framing specific sky sectors during key astronomical events. Geometric correspondences between viewing angles and overall architecture suggest the entire edifice functioned as a three-dimensional celestial calculator, facilitating complex observations through structural design. The Babylon ziggurat incorporated acoustic properties, amplifying particular frequencies while attenuating others. Analysis reveals internal chambers resonating at ratios matching those in astronomical computations. These acoustic features imply multifunctional purpose, combining celestial observation with potential sound-based communication systems, coordinating distant observation posts. Mesopotamian calendrical systems display remarkable ingenuity, reconciling lunar months with solar years, while maintaining synchronization with planetary cycles. The conventional 360-day year necessitated intricate intercalation to align with the actual solar year of 365.25 days. Administrative documents detail mathematical procedures maintaining long-term chronological accuracy, including insertion of supplementary months and adjustment of festival dates to preserve seasonal correspondence. The Assyrian calendar employed a 19-year cycle, synchronizing lunar and solar observations with high precision, inserting 7 additional months per cycle and sustaining accuracy within hours over extended periods. The mathematical operations required demonstrate deep understanding of astronomical periodicity and interrelationships. Neo-Babylonian texts describe calendrical refinements accounting for gradual seasonal drift caused by precession. These adjustments reflect awareness that temporal systems require periodic correction to remain accurate across centuries. Mathematical techniques for these modifications presuppose knowledge of precessional rates and their seasonal impact, indicating astronomical insight extending far beyond immediate practical utility. Religious festivals throughout Mesopotamia aligned with specific celestial events, necessitating precise calculation and observation. Babylon's Eridu festival coincided with vernal equinox and particular planetary configurations recurring predictably. Administrative records outline complex procedures determining proper festival timing, including multi-phenomena observations and mathematical projections forecasting astronomical events months ahead. Correlation between festival scheduling and celestial occurrences suggests these celebrations served practical roles in preserving astronomical knowledge and coordinating observational activities across Mesopotamian civilization. Ritual observations of designated celestial phenomena ensured integration of astronomical expertise with religious and social practices. Coordinated observations maintained accurate celestial records across generations and regions. Mesopotamian eclipse prediction achieved notable precision through mathematical analysis of recurring patterns. The 18-year, 11-day, 8-hour Saros cycle enabled forecasting lunar eclipses with accuracy often surpassing direct observation. Babylonian eclipse archives demonstrate successful predictions extending decades forward, indicating sophisticated mathematical models, accommodating orbital variations and observational uncertainties. Solar eclipse prediction demanded even greater computational complexity due to narrow visibility zones. Texts record successful forecasts of solar eclipses observable from specific cities, implying models incorporating Earth's rotation, orbital mechanics, and geographical coordinates. Predictive accuracy approached modern computational standards. Neo-Babylonian planetary observation logs track visible planets with mathematical precision, enabling reliable future position forecasts. Calculations adjust for orbital eccentricity, retrograde motion, and synodic periods through models requiring advanced celestial mechanics understanding. Consistency of these records across centuries indicates institutional astronomical programs maintaining continuity despite political changes and social upheaval. Venus observations preserved in Babylonian texts demonstrate recognition of the planet's dual morning-evening star identity, including precise calculations of superior and inferior conjunctions. These records required systematic monitoring across multiple synodic cycles and mathematical synthesis establishing dependable patterns. Venus prediction accuracy supported navigational and calendrical functions. Integration of astronomical knowledge with architectural planning appears consistently throughout Mesopotamian building projects. Temple orientations align with designated celestial phenomena, stellar risings, planetary conjunctions, seasonal solar positions. Mathematical precision of these alignments required advanced surveying and astronomical computation, demonstrating mastery of observational astronomy and applied engineering. Mesopotamian astronomical accomplishments constitute an integrated system of mathematical theory, observational practice, and practical application, enabling precise celestial monitoring across millennia. The sophistication of these systems implies access to advanced mathematical concepts and long-term observational data requiring institutional continuity far exceeding conventional historical timelines. Integration of celestial knowledge with religious, architectural, and administrative structures indicates astronomical observation served as fundamental organizing principle for Mesopotamian civilization, coordinating complex social functions through detailed understanding of cosmic periodicity and mathematical relationships. The mathematical exactness embedded in Mesopotamian astronomical systems represents only one dimension of evidence supporting assertions of advanced pre-flood civilization. Physical archaeological finds throughout the region disclose technological proficiency, challenging standard chronologies of human progress. Underwater investigations in the Persian Gulf have identified settlement patterns predating recognized civilizations by many millennia. Combined with genetic and linguistic data, these findings depict rapid technological dissemination and demographic movements aligning closely with ancient narratives of celestial intervention. Metallurgical examination of artifacts from Eridu's deepest strata reveals alloy compositions, demonstrating nuanced comprehension of metallic properties and controlled smelting methods. Bronze implements, dated around 4,500 BC, exhibit copper-tin ratios optimized for intended functions, with weapons displaying distinct metallurgical profiles compared to farming tools. Tin content ranges from 8 to 12%, indicating deliberate compositional targeting rather than haphazard blending. Laboratory studies detect trace elements, arsenic, antimony, silver, in concentrations suggesting intentional addition rather than natural occurrence or contamination. Arsenic levels, typically between 1 and 3%, confer enhanced hardness and corrosion resistance immediately noticeable to ancient smiths. Precise control of arsenic required understanding its toxicity and sophisticated management of hazardous smelting conditions, seemingly unavailable to early Bronze Age societies. Excavations at Tel Aswan uncovered ceramic kilns capable of sustaining temperatures above 1,200 degrees Celsius, substantially exceeding requirements for ordinary pottery firing. These kilns feature advanced combustion chamber designs, with regulated airflow systems enabling accurate temperature control. Proportional relationships in chamber dimensions and vent placement reflect precise thermodynamic and combustion engineering calculations, anticipating later metallurgical advances by millennia. Ceramic products from these high-temperature facilities display uniform wall thicknesses within millimeters and specialized surface treatments requiring advanced glazing techniques. Chemical analysis identifies glazes containing lead, tin, and copper compounds in carefully calibrated proportions, producing specific colors and surface qualities. Consistency across production batches indicates standardized formulations and quality assurance procedures suggesting organized industrial-scale manufacturing rather than trial-and-error craftsmanship. Stoneworking techniques observed at early Mesopotamian sites exhibit precision-surpassing capabilities of documented ancient implements. Limestone blocks in Uruk temple foundations display cut surfaces accurate to fractions of a millimeter, bearing tool marks inconsistent with copper or bronze chisels. Microscopic examination reveals parallel striations with spacing and depth characteristics, suggesting mechanized cutting rather than hand labor. Precision fitting in foundation courses at major temple sites required surveying accuracy approaching modern standards. Multi-ton blocks interlock with gaps narrower than paper sheets, achieved without mortar. Mathematical computations compensating for thermal expansion, settling, and load distribution indicate sophisticated engineering knowledge applied to practical construction challenges. Subterranean chambers beneath the Eridu temple complex contain architectural features implying specialized non-residential functions. These spaces feature precision machined stone surfaces, with acoustic properties amplifying designated frequencies while suppressing others. Geometric relationships among chamber dimensions, ceiling heights, and wall angles generate resonance patterns corresponding to ratios later formalized in musical theory, suggesting specialized acoustic purposes requiring advanced understanding of sound propagation. Drainage infrastructure throughout early Mesopotamian settlements incorporates hydraulic principles anticipating Roman engineering by millennia. Underground aqueducts at Girsu maintain calculated gradients, ensuring water flow across distances exceeding 10 kilometers while accommodating seasonal level fluctuations. Mathematical precision of gradient computations required surveying techniques and hydraulic knowledge exceeding conventional ancient standards. These systems include pressure-regulating devices and flow control mechanisms demonstrating fluid dynamics understanding. Bronze fittings recovered from these installations display machining marks consistent with lathe operations, indicating rotational cutting techniques supposedly undeveloped until much later periods. Precision of these components enabled leak-resistant seals and controlled flow-maintaining system efficiency over prolonged operation. Underwater archaeological surveys conducted in the Persian Gulf during the 1990s identified extensive submerged settlement remains beneath 60 to 120 feet of water. Radiocarbon dating of organic materials places these sites before 8000 BC, revealing architectural foundations and artifact concentrations indicating substantial permanent communities. Spatial distribution suggests coordinated urban planning across hundreds of square kilometers, implying population densities and organizational capacity exceeding known prehistoric norms. Sonar mapping of the seafloor discloses geometric patterns consistent with agricultural field systems, including irrigation channels and plot boundaries, extending across submerged coastal plains. These layouts reflect systematic land use planning requiring surveying expertise and agronomic knowledge sufficient to sustain large sedentary populations. Mathematical precision of field arrangements and irrigation networks indicates centralized planning and engineering capabilities challenging conventional views of prehistoric societies. Artifacts recovered from submerged sites include ceramics exhibiting technological features akin to early Mesopotamian pottery, yet predating known Mesopotamian settlements by millennia. These vessels display identical firing methods, decorative motifs, and functional designs suggesting direct technological continuity between pre-flood submerged communities and subsequent Mesopotamian cultures. Consistency of technological traditions across this chronological divide implies preservation of specialized expertise through survivor groups enduring inundation events. Genetic analysis of skeletal remains from early Mesopotamian contexts reveals population characteristics diverging significantly from neighboring groups. DNA extracted from burials at Ur and Uruk displays genetic markers not readily traceable to surrounding regional populations. Haplogroups appear abruptly in the archaeological sequence without clear ancestral sources in adjacent territories, suggesting either substantial migration from distant origins or biological influences beyond current explanatory frameworks. Genetic data indicate population bottlenecks followed by rapid demographic expansion, correlating with periods of technological intensification described in ancient texts. Mitochondrial DNA shows reduced diversity, followed by sudden population growth, corresponding to emergence of major urban centers. These patterns suggest either significant immigration events or demographic recoveries, facilitating accelerated cultural development within comparatively brief intervals. Linguistic examination of earliest Sumerian texts discloses vocabulary and grammatical systems not clearly descended from known regional language families. Sumerian emerges in written form without evident developmental stages, already possessing complex grammatical structures and specialized technical terminology, implying fully formed intellectual traditions rather than nascent communication systems. Mathematical and astronomical lexicon in early Sumerian documents includes precise terminology, reflecting sophisticated conceptual frameworks for describing intricate phenomena. Comparative studies identify Sumerian influence on languages throughout the ancient Near East, including specialized vocabulary related to metallurgy, astronomy, and engineering appearing across unrelated linguistic groups. These borrowings follow geographical patterns, suggesting systematic dissemination of technical knowledge from Mesopotamian centers to surrounding populations. Uniformity of technical terminology across diverse languages indicates standardized educational mechanisms transmitting precise information rather than vague concepts. Geological evidence from Mesopotamian river systems documents multiple catastrophic inundation events, aligning with historical narratives preserved in ancient literature. Sediment core analysis throughout the Tigris-Euphrates basin identifies flood deposits exceeding normal seasonal fluctuations by orders of magnitude. These layers contain marine sediments and organic remains, indicating temporary marine connections, supporting textual descriptions of waters covering land like a garment. Geological record places these extreme floods during periods of rapid climatic transition, affecting global weather patterns. Ice core data from Greenland and Antarctica reveal temperature fluctuations and atmospheric changes correlating with Mesopotamian flood deposits. These climatic shifts generated conditions conducive to extreme precipitation and glacial melt capable of producing inundation scale described in ancient accounts. Radiocarbon dating of organic material from flood layers provides chronological alignment with textual narratives of divine withdrawal and civilizational collapse. Most prominent flood horizons date approximately 2900 to 2700 BC, corresponding to period when Sumerian texts describe abandonment of major cities and termination of direct celestial involvement in human affairs. Correspondence between geological evidence and textual accounts suggests ancient records preserved accurate information concerning genuine environmental catastrophes. Archaeological remains from post-flood reconstruction phases display technological discontinuities supporting textual narratives of knowledge preservation and restoration. Construction methods, metallurgical practices, and artistic conventions exhibit sudden improvements, suggesting access to conserved expertise rather than gradual redevelopment. These technological revivals occur synchronously at multiple sites, implying coordinated restoration efforts requiring centralized knowledge repositories and systematic dissemination networks. Artifact assemblages from Reconstruction period contexts include implements demonstrating capabilities surpassing immediately preceding eras. Metallurgical analysis reveals alloy compositions and fabrication techniques representing advances over pre-flood technologies, suggesting continued development during inundation or access to unaffected knowledge sources. Sophistication of post-flood technologies indicates advanced expertise survived environmental disasters through preservation mechanisms maintaining technical information across disruption periods. Chemical analysis of construction materials from reconstruction sites identifies concrete-like substances incorporating volcanic ash and mineral additives in proportions conferring exceptional durability and weather resistance. These materials demonstrate comprehension of chemical reactions and material behavior, anticipating Roman concrete technology by millennia. Uniformity of formulations across sites indicates standardized recipes and quality control, suggesting centralized technical knowledge and organized distribution networks. Archaeological discoveries at Mesopotamian sites present coherent evidence of technological proficiency exceeding conventional expectations for prehistoric and early historic periods. Precision of metallurgical methods, sophistication of engineering solutions, and mathematical accuracy of construction projects indicate access to advanced knowledge systems requiring institutional continuity and systematic preservation protocols. Correspondence between archaeological finds and ancient textual accounts suggests these societies possessed capabilities subsequently lost during political disintegration and environmental catastrophe, only partially recovered through preserved knowledge sources, maintaining advanced technical information across extended social disruption. Convergence of archaeological evidence with ancient textual traditions has created fertile ground for reinterpretation of Mesopotamian history, with the Zecharia Sitchin's publications representing perhaps the most influential and contentious attempt to reconcile ancient sources with contemporary understanding. Beginning with The 12th Planet in 1976, Sitchin's translations of Sumerian and Akkadian cuneiform tablets proposed that the Anunnaki constituted extraterrestrial visitors who genetically engineered early humans and founded civilization on Earth. His reading ignited prolonged scholarly controversy and widespread popular interest, profoundly influencing alternative approaches to ancient Mesopotamian literature. Sitchin's method emphasized literal translation of cuneiform documents, particularly creation myths, royal chronologies, and astronomical texts, typically treated by mainstream scholarship as symbolic mythology. His interpretation of Anunnaki stressed the literal sense, those who from heaven to earth came, contending that ancient scribes documented historical reality rather than allegorical religious tales. This perspective challenged conventional archaeological readings by treating ancient writings as factual records, preserving accurate information about technologically superior beings whose capabilities vastly exceeded those of contemporaneous human societies. The linguistic foundation of Sitchin's thesis relied heavily on his analysis of Sumerian astronomical terminology, especially references to celestial bodies and cosmic phenomena. His examination of the Enuma Elish concentrated on passages describing planetary genesis and orbital dynamics, asserting that ancient Mesopotamians possessed detailed solar system knowledge, obtainable only through extraterrestrial observation or instruction from beings with advanced astronomical expertise. Sitchin's rendering of Nibiru as a planet with a 3,600-year elliptical orbit became central to his hypothesis of periodic extraterrestrial contact. Academic reaction to Sitchin's translations has been predominantly negative, with Assyriologists and Sumerologists identifying numerous linguistic inaccuracies and methodological flaws. Dr. Michael Heiser, specialist in ancient Near Eastern languages, performed detailed critiques demonstrating systematic misinterpretation of cuneiform signs, grammatical errors, and selective quotations supporting preconceived conclusions while disregarding conflicting evidence. Heiser's analysis established that many key elements of Sitchin's translations contain fundamental misunderstandings of Sumerian and Akkadian grammar and lexicon. Scholarly criticism extends beyond linguistic issues to encompass methodological deficiencies in Sitchin's treatment of ancient literature. Mainstream Assyriologists emphasize interpreting texts within their cultural and historical milieu, arguing that mythological narratives fulfill specific social and religious purposes, not necessarily corresponding to literal events. Dr. Stephanie Daly of Oxford observed that Sitchin's readings disregard literary conventions and symbolic frameworks governing Mesopotamian composition, treating figurative language as factual without considering cultural functions served by these texts. Professional philologists have challenged Sitchin's handling of damaged or ambiguous cuneiform passages, where lacunae and uncertain signs demand cautious reconstruction based on context and parallel documents. Dr. Irving Finkel of the British Museum demonstrated that Sitchin often inserted speculative restorations into incomplete tablets to support extraterrestrial interpretations, rather than adhering to established philological standards. These methodological objections have led conventional scholarship to classify Sitchin's work as pseudoscience rather than legitimate historical inquiry. Nevertheless, certain observations Sitchin made regarding early Sumerian technological sophistication have received unanticipated reinforcement from recent archaeological discoveries. His emphasis on advanced metallurgy, astronomy, and engineering in early Sumerian contexts aligns with physical evidence challenging gradualist models of cultural development. While mainstream scholars reject extraterrestrial explanations, technological anomalies highlighted by Sitchin have stimulated renewed investigation into sources of advanced knowledge in ancient Mesopotamia. The controversy surrounding Sitchin's publications has exposed deeper methodological divisions within ancient Near Eastern studies concerning the relationship between textual testimony and material evidence. Traditional scholarship prioritizes rigorous linguistic analysis and cultural contextualization, whereas alternative researchers advocate more literal readings of ancient accounts describing technological achievements and historical occurrences. This methodological schism reflects fundamental questions about how contemporary scholarship should evaluate ancient assertions appearing to surpass documented historical capabilities. Modern Assyriologists have developed increasingly nuanced approaches to distinguishing historical memory from mythological elaboration in Mesopotamian literature. Dr. Tizvi Abush's research on creation narratives demonstrates how ancient texts preserved authentic historical recollections, while embedding them within symbolic and ritual structures serving specific cultural purposes. This perspective suggests ancient accounts may contain factual cores transformed through literary and religious processes, requiring careful discrimination between historical elements and mythic amplification. The ancient astronaut hypothesis, popularized by Sitchin, and figures such as Erich von Däniken, has generated substantial academic literature exploring psychological and cultural factors, rendering such theories attractive to contemporary audiences. Dr. Garrett Fagan's studies of pseudo-archaeology illustrate how alternative narratives concerning ancient civilizations frequently mirror modern concerns about technological transformation and cultural identity, rather than providing accurate historical explanations. This sociological viewpoint proposes that extraterrestrial interpretations of ancient achievements may fulfill contemporary psychological requirements rather than adequately accounting for archaeological data. Archaeological strategies for evaluating alternative historical claims have grown increasingly rigorous, incorporating advanced chronometric techniques, materials characterization, and comparative analyses capable of confirming or refuting specific assertions about ancient technological capacity. Recent discoveries at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey reveal monumental architecture dated to approximately 9,500 BC, demonstrating sophisticated planning and construction among supposedly primitive hunter-gatherer groups. These findings bolster arguments that advanced organizational abilities and knowledge existed much earlier than conventional chronologies permit, although they do not necessarily substantiate extraterrestrial explanations. Comparative mythological research discloses striking parallels between Mesopotamian narratives of celestial intervention and similar traditions worldwide, raising questions about shared historical experience or universal patterns in human narrative construction. Dr. David Leeming's examination of creator myths shows that accounts of heavenly beings descending to establish civilization recur across numerous unrelated cultures on different continents and in different eras. These similarities prompt consideration of whether such stories preserve memories of actual historical events or represent archetypal structures in human consciousness. Flood traditions provide particularly compelling instances of cross-cultural correspondence, potentially indicating common historical experience. Narratives of catastrophic deluges, destroying existing societies, and necessitating divine intervention to preserve human knowledge appear with remarkable structural consistency in Mesopotamian, Indian, Chinese, Mesoamerican, and North American traditions. While details vary according to local cultural frameworks, core elements, celestial warning, technological preservation, civilizational renewal, suggest either shared historical events or exceptionally durable cultural memories. Indian Sanskrit literature, particularly Vedic texts and Puranas, contains detailed portrayals of advanced beings termed devas possessing technological capabilities closely resembling those attributed to Mesopotamian Anunnaki. Vimana texts describe aerial vehicles equipped with sophisticated propulsion and weaponry paralleling divine technology descriptions in Mesopotamian literature. Dr. Richard Thompson's analysis of Sanskrit astronomical treatises reveals mathematical proficiency and observational precision exceeding conventional expectations for ancient Indian civilization, suggesting access to advanced knowledge sources comparable to those evident in Mesopotamian records. Chinese historical traditions preserve accounts of celestial emperors descending from heaven to found civilization and impart fundamental technologies to humanity. The Yellow Emperor and other legendary sovereigns receive credit for introducing metallurgy, agriculture, writing, and astronomical observation to ancient China. These narratives follow patterns strikingly similar to Mesopotamian accounts of divine intervention, including specific details concerning transmission of technological expertise and establishment of governance under celestial guidance. Mesoamerican civilizations, developing independently of Old World influence, produced creation myths and historical traditions displaying remarkable parallels to Mesopotamian narratives. The Popol Vuh recounts gods creating humanity after several unsuccessful attempts and founding civilization through direct instruction in essential technologies. Quetzalcoatl and other Mesoamerican deities appear as culture heroes, arriving from distant realms to teach astronomy, agriculture, and craftsmanship before departing with promises of return. Mathematical precision of Maya. Astronomical calculations and engineering sophistication of their constructions suggest access to advanced knowledge sources paralleling those evident in Mesopotamia. Indigenous North American traditions maintain detailed accounts of star people descending from the sky to interact with human populations and establish cultural practices. Hopi prophecies describe return of star beings who will restore proper harmony between humanity and cosmic order. Cherokee narratives include stories of advanced beings teaching essential technologies and founding sacred sites aligned with astronomical phenomena. Consistency of these traditions across diverse tribal groups suggests either shared historical experience or exceptionally persistent cultural memories preserving accurate information across millennia. Recent archaeological discoveries have furnished fresh evidence for assessing alternative theories concerning ancient technological capacity and cultural contact. Underwater archaeology has uncovered extensive settlement remains submerged by post-glacial sea level rise, demonstrating sophisticated urban organization and technological proficiency among supposedly primitive populations. Discovery of the Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek device computing planetary positions with remarkable precision, illustrates that advanced mechanical knowledge existed in antiquity, even when conventional chronologies suggest such capabilities should not have been available. Genetic studies of ancient populations have revealed migration patterns and demographic movements supporting certain aspects of alternative historical interpretations, while contradicting others. NA analysis of early Mesopotamian groups discloses genetic influences from distant regions, indicating substantial long-distance contact during periods when conventional models propose isolated regional development. However, these studies detect no evidence of non-human genetic contributions that would substantiate extraterrestrial intervention hypotheses. Astronomical examination of ancient sites confirms sophisticated comprehension of celestial mechanics evident in architectural alignments and textual references. Precision of celestial alignments at locations including Stonehenge, Egyptian pyramids, and Mesopotamian ziggurats demonstrates understanding of precession, planetary cycles, and stellar movements requiring centuries of systematic observation and mathematical analysis. These findings reinforce arguments that ancient societies possessed advanced astronomical knowledge, while not necessarily confirming extraterrestrial sources for such expertise. Technological analysis of ancient artifacts continues to disclose manufacturing capabilities challenging conventional historical development models. Recent investigations of Damascus steel reveal molecular structures not fully understood until modern materials science, yet achieved by ancient smiths through techniques still partially mysterious. Similarly, analysis of Roman concrete discloses chemical compositions and structural properties surpassing many contemporary building materials in longevity and performance. Debate over alternative historical theories has stimulated emergence of new methodological frameworks, attempting to bridge conventional academic scholarship and alternative research. Interdisciplinary cooperation among archaeologists, linguists, astronomers, and materials scientists has created opportunities for more comprehensive assessment of ancient technological achievements and cultural accomplishments. These collaborative efforts have confirmed numerous aspects of ancient sophistication, while offering naturalistic explanations for phenomena alternative theories attribute to extraterrestrial intervention. Modern re-examination of ancient texts employing improved translation methods and deeper contextual understanding has uncovered additional layers of significance in Mesopotamian literature previously overlooked. Digital humanities initiatives enable systematic analysis of thousands of cuneiform tablets, revealing patterns and correlations invisible through traditional philological approaches. These computational methods have identified astronomical knowledge, mathematical concepts, and technological descriptions, demonstrating greater sophistication than formerly recognized while preserving scholarly rigor in translation and interpretation. Ongoing advancement of archaeological techniques continues to yield new data pertinent to evaluating alternative historical interpretations. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, and refined dating methods have disclosed previously undocumented sites and cultural connections, expanding understanding of ancient capabilities and interaction networks. These discoveries consistently demonstrate that ancient civilizations were more sophisticated and interconnected than conventional frameworks suggested, while providing naturalistic accounts for achievements. Alternative theories attribute to extraterrestrial influence. Methodological progress in analyzing ancient texts has revealed increasingly precise correspondences between contemporary astronomical events and Mesopotamian prophetic literature, suggesting many celestial indicators described in cuneiform records are currently manifesting according to ancient computations. Recent observations of planetary alignments, stellar phenomena, and deep space discoveries correspond remarkably well with astronomical predictions preserved in Neo-Babylonian ephemerides and prophetic compositions dating to the first millennium BC. Theoretical identification of Planet 9, a massive object proposed in the outer solar system, has renewed scholarly interest in ancient Mesopotamian references to Nibiru and its described orbital characteristics. Modern calculations indicate this hypothetical planet follows a highly elliptical path, returning it to the inner solar system approximately every 3,600 years, precisely matching the orbital period specified in Sumerian astronomical texts. Research by Dr. Konstantin Batygin at Caltech demonstrates that gravitational perturbations affecting outer solar system objects require a planetary mass roughly 10 times Earth's in a distant elliptical orbit, characteristics aligning closely with ancient descriptions of Nibiru's size and trajectory. Infrared surveys conducted by the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer, WISE, have detected anomalous heat signatures in the outer solar system, suggesting presence of large celestial bodies not yet directly imaged through conventional optical methods. These infrared detections occur in regions corresponding to ancient Mesopotamian star charts, depicting Nibiru's approach path toward the inner solar system. Mathematical correspondence of these findings suggests either remarkable coincidence or genuine astronomical knowledge preserved in ancient records. Recent observations of comet trajectories and asteroid paths reveal perturbations consistent with gravitational influence from an undiscovered massive object in the outer solar system. Orbital modifications affecting numerous trans-Neptunian objects follow patterns suggesting common gravitational source matching ancient descriptions of Nibiru. Analysis by Dr. Chad Trujillo of extreme trans-Neptunian objects demonstrates clustering in orbital orientations, indicating gravitational shepherding by a large distant planet with millennial orbital period. Contemporary space exploration has produced technological accomplishments eerily paralleling descriptions of divine capabilities in ancient Mesopotamian texts. Development of autonomous spacecraft, artificial intelligence systems, and genetic engineering demonstrates human acquisition of capacities. Ancient texts attributed exclusively to Anunnaki. Rapid advancement in biotechnology and space exploration follows timelines correlating with prophetic descriptions of knowledge restoration preceding celestial return. The Human Genome Project and subsequent gene editing technologies enable precise DNA manipulation, paralleling ancient accounts of divine beings modifying human genetic characteristics. CRISPR technology permits targeted genetic alterations, matching descriptions in texts such as the Atrahasis epic, where celestial entities create humanity through deliberate genetic intervention. Ethical discussions surrounding human genetic enhancement echo ancient narratives of divine disagreement concerning appropriate scope of human capabilities. Artificial intelligence has achieved capacities corresponding to ancient descriptions of divine omniscience and computational ability. Modern AI systems process enormous datasets, forecast future events through complex pattern analysis, and execute decisions surpassing human cognitive limits. These technological developments parallel Mesopotamian accounts of celestial beings possessing comprehensive knowledge of past and future, while performing intricate astronomical and mathematical computations instantaneously. Space exploration technologies have developed propulsion systems and navigation capabilities, enabling solar system travel, approaching interplanetary capabilities, attributed to Anunnaki in ancient texts. The International Space Station constitutes humanity's initial permanent extraterrestrial habitat, while Mars exploration missions demonstrate technological foundations for establishing settlements on other planets, representing preliminary stages toward interplanetary civilization described as characteristic of divine beings in ancient literature. Geopolitical developments in the Middle East have followed trajectories aligning remarkably well with prophetic descriptions preserved in Neo-Babylonian and Neo-Assyrian texts. Re-establishment of Israel as a sovereign state in 1948, persistent conflict centered on territories encompassing ancient Mesopotamia, and Iraq's emergence as focus of international intervention correspond to prophetic chronologies describing political upheavals preceding divine return. Mathematical correspondence of these alignments suggests either extraordinary historical coincidence or authentic prophetic insight preserved in ancient sources. Archaeological exploration in Iraq and Syria has intensified dramatically since the early 21st century, uncovering previously unknown sites and artifacts, providing additional evidence for advanced ancient civilizations. Excavations at sites such as Tel Brak have revealed urban settlements with sophisticated defensive systems and administrative complexes predating recognized Mesopotamian cities by centuries. These discoveries support ancient accounts of extensive pre-flood civilizations, while furnishing physical evidence for technological capabilities described in Sumerian texts. Deliberate destruction of archaeological heritage by extremist organizations has followed patterns corresponding to ancient prophetic descriptions of knowledge concealment and preservation during political turmoil. Systematic targeting of museums, libraries, and excavation sites in Iraq and Syria mirrors ancient narratives of divine knowledge being safeguarded or hidden during societal collapse. International response to these destructions, including digital archiving initiatives and emergency archaeological interventions, parallels ancient accounts of knowledge preservation mechanisms, maintaining critical information across periods of political disruption. Contemporary climate change and ecological instability exhibit patterns aligning with ancient prophetic descriptions of global upheavals preceding celestial intervention. Sea level rise, extreme weather events, and ecosystem disruptions follow trajectories described in Mesopotamian texts as indicators of approaching cosmic recalibration. Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change Assessments document environmental transformations matching ancient descriptions of natural disasters accompanying divine return periods. Ocean acidification and marine ecosystem collapse correspond to ancient accounts of waters becoming bitter and marine organisms perishing during cosmic upheaval. Mathematical models projecting future climate scenarios align with ancient computations describing environmental changes occurring during specific astronomical configurations. These correspondences suggest either remarkable prescience in ancient environmental knowledge or genuine prophetic insight into long-term ecological cycles. Agricultural difficulties and food security challenges have emerged in patterns correlating with ancient prophetic descriptions of agricultural disruption preceding divine intervention. Crop failures, soil deterioration, and water scarcity affect regions corresponding to traditional Mesopotamian agricultural zones. Development of genetically modified crops and synthetic food production technologies represents human efforts to address agricultural crises through methods paralleling ancient accounts of celestial intervention in farming systems. Modern reinterpretation of Sumerian chronological cycles reveals convergence of multiple ancient systems on the early 21st century as period of significant transition. Completion of various astronomical cycles described in Mesopotamian texts, including precession-based calculations and planetary orbital periods, clusters around contemporary dates with mathematical precision suggesting intentional timing rather than chance alignment. Analyses by Dr. John Major Jenkins of Mayan and Mesopotamian calendrical systems demonstrate remarkable synchronization between independent ancient chronometries, both identifying current era as astronomically significant. Sumerian concept of the SAR, a 3,600-year cycle linked to Nibiru's orbit, positions contemporary period at completion of multiple SAR cycles since Sumerian civilization's establishment. Chronological computations based on ancient Mesopotamian frameworks indicate 2012 to 2024 constitutes convergence point for several cyclical systems, including precessional ages, planetary return cycles, and calendrical computations associated with divine intervention periods. Neo-Babylonian astronomical texts preserve ephemeris calculations extending into contemporary era with notable accuracy, predicting planetary positions and celestial events subsequently confirmed by modern observation. These ancient computations demonstrate mathematical sophistication, enabling accurate astronomical prediction across millennia, while designating specific early 21st century dates as significant according to Mesopotamian standards. Technological advancements in space observation have disclosed cosmic phenomena corresponding to ancient descriptions of celestial portents preceding divine return. Detection of gravitational waves, observation of black hole mergers, and discovery of potentially habitable exoplanets represent cosmic activities. Ancient texts describe as accompanying divine intervention periods. Mathematical correspondence of these cosmic events aligns with ancient calculations describing astronomical phenomena heralding significant changes in divine-human relations. Recent identification of potentially artificial structures in deep space, including anomalous stellar dimming patterns and geometric arrangements of celestial objects, has prompted scientific speculation concerning extraterrestrial intelligence paralleling ancient accounts of divine beings operating throughout cosmos. Tabby's star phenomenon, characterized by irregular luminosity variations suggesting large artificial constructions, demonstrates cosmic engineering capabilities matching ancient descriptions of divine technological projects on stellar scales. Search for extraterrestrial intelligence employs technological capabilities enabling detection of artificial signals and structures across interstellar distances. Radio telescope arrays and space-based observatories have achieved sensitivity levels potentially capable of identifying technological signatures from civilizations possessing capabilities attributed to Anunnaki in ancient texts. Mathematical frameworks in SETI research utilize signal processing techniques potentially able to recognize advanced communication forms described in Mesopotamian accounts of divine-human interaction. Contemporary developments in quantum physics and consciousness studies have revealed phenomena paralleling ancient descriptions of divine capabilities and non-material realms. Quantum entanglement, non-locality, and consciousness matter interactions demonstrate aspects of reality corresponding to ancient accounts of celestial beings operating through non-physical mechanisms and maintaining simultaneous presence across multiple domains. These scientific findings offer potential naturalistic explanations for capacities attributed to divine beings in ancient texts without invoking supernatural causation. Archaeological preservation initiatives have disclosed ancient sites and artifacts demonstrating technological capabilities exceeding conventional historical expectations. Ground-penetrating radar surveys at major Mesopotamian locations have detected subterranean structures and chambers remaining unexplored, potentially containing preserved knowledge and technologies described in ancient texts. Mathematical precision of these underground complexes suggests deliberate design for long-term safeguarding of critical materials and information. Digital reconstruction projects enable virtual examination of ancient sites and artifacts, revealing previously unrecognized technological sophistication. Three-dimensional modeling of Mesopotamian architecture discloses acoustic properties, astronomical alignments, and engineering principles demonstrating advanced knowledge across multiple scientific disciplines. These digital analyses provide fresh evidence supporting technological capabilities described in ancient texts while facilitating detailed study of locations physically inaccessible due to political instability. Convergence of contemporary phenomena with ancient predictions suggests current period constitutes critical transition point within cyclical patterns described in Mesopotamian prophetic literature. Mathematical precision of these correlations, combined with technological capabilities humanity has recently attained, indicates conditions outlined in ancient texts for divine return may be approaching realization. Whether these alignments represent genuine prophetic foresight, extraordinary historical coincidence, or inevitable outcome of human technological progress, reaching levels paralleling ancient descriptions of divine capabilities remains unresolved question, likely answered through continued monitoring of astronomical events and technological developments in coming decades. Systematic examination of ancient Mesopotamian texts, archaeological evidence, and contemporary phenomena discloses coherent pattern of cyclical divine intervention shaping human civilization throughout recorded history. Technological capacities attributed to Anunnaki in ancient literature correspond closely with technologies humanity currently develops. Astronomical events described in prophetic writings align with modern observations and calculations. Convergence of these diverse evidence streams suggests ancient warnings preserved in Mesopotamian literature may represent authentic knowledge concerning cosmic cycles and divine intervention patterns, continuing to influence human development and planetary events. As humanity attains technological capabilities paralleling those ascribed to divine beings in ancient texts, question whether this represents independent human accomplishment or fulfillment of ancient prophetic cycles becomes increasingly pertinent to comprehending both historical trajectory and future direction of civilization.